Good evening. Good evening. How are you all doing? I hope you're having an absolutely amazing Wednesday. And now Wednesday evening. Hope you've all had a great first half to your week. Extremely excited for this evening. Unlike normal live streams tonight, I'm going to be doing an interview. Clarissa, how are you doing? Good to see you. Tonight, I'm going to be doing an interview of one of our students, Alex. Good to see you. Let's see if I can add you on here, Alex. Let's see if it'll let me. Alex, if you're seeing this right now, see if it'll let you request to join me on live. Eric, good to see you. Carol, good to see you as well. Let's see if it'll let us add Alex. Okay, hold up. We'll get this. Let's see. Alex. All right. So, Alex, it should have sent you an invitation. And if you don't see it, it should also let you request to join me on here. So, just see. Let's see again. All right. Check it out again. Eric, if you're joining live right now, would you mind commenting hashtag Team Live? I want to shout out your name. I want to just call you out. And if you're watching this on replay as well, please do the same. Love to see everyone who's here active. Tonight's gonna be a fun night. And the reason why I want to start doing more of these is this. The reason why I want to start doing more interviews like weekly is mainly because as pre-PTs, it's very, let's see if it'll let you, Alex. All right, so it should let you. All right, so the reason is like we all have very different stories. I actually had 3 people message me within the last 2 days who are non-traditional students, and they're like, Joseph, is it too late for me? I'm 30. Is it too late for me? I'm 35. Is it too late for me? Is it like I just so this is so common. So I want y'all to just see. What's up, Alex? How you doing? Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, can you hear me?
Can, yeah, I can.
Awesome.
This is gonna be great. Alex, what I was telling them is that why I want to do more of these interviews, like on the regular, is simply because, especially in this group, like we all have, and they'll listen to your story in just a few minutes, but we all have different fears, and they're usually based off of like where we're currently at as a non-traditional student. It's so common. Like I was telling them that within the last 2 days, I've had at least 3 non-traditional students reach out to me and say, "Is it too late?
Yeah.
Like, is it too late for me to apply? Is it too late for me to even give it a shot?"
Yeah.
When you have other that are coming straight out, they're like 21 years old, getting ready to apply. Late for me, and that's why I want to do more interviews, because it allows students to just see the eyes of someone else that has just done it, that is in the same position they're in. Judy, good to see you. Riley, good to see you. Justin, good to see you. Kelsey, good to see you. Caitlin, good to see you all. Thank you guys for joining us. And so I'm extremely excited. I'm excited for you to share your story. I'm excited to pour some life into the pre-PTs that are listening. Actually, before we begin, I want to see who's joining us. So if you're a non-traditional student, what that means, if you guys are watching this live or if you watch this on replay, what's up, Kyle Rice? What's up, 2 Kyles? Wow, that's amazing. Like if you're watching this live or on replay, what being a non-traditional student usually means is that it's a variety of things. Sometimes it can mean you went down a different career path and now you're coming back to PT. Sometimes it could mean you just took some years off to do something else. Sometimes, usually there's a little bit of time between schooling, and it varies. It varies. But if you're a non-traditional student, which means that you're not coming straight from undergrad directly to applying to PT school, let me know below. And then if you are a traditional student, like you're like, hey, I went straight from my last year of college directly into applying to PT school, let us know below as well. I just want to see who we're dealing with tonight and who we're also dealing with on the replay. So if you're watching this on replay as well, please just let us know below. But Alex, tonight is your night. So I'm not going to do a lot of talking. And what I would love for you to do first, before we dive in, is just introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about where you live, and then we'll dive in. Is that all right?
Yeah, yeah, great.
Perfect. All
Okay.
yours.
Okay. So I am, as Joseph said, a non-traditional student. I currently live in Santa Barbara, California, and I just moved down here about a year ago. I was living in San Francisco for 10 years, working for various tech companies. Before that, I was in hospitality. And I actually graduated from undergrad in 2008 during the recession. So it was really hard to find work. And I was just trying to find whatever, kind of like whoever was going to hire me. And tech was really taking off at that point. And that's the industry that I got into. So I am taking my last prereq at the City College down here and working as a TA in anatomy, so brushing up on my anatomy. And I live with my husband, and I have two little dogs, and I like hiking. That's it.
Like listing off all the things I like.
Yeah.
But and this lays the foundation for about to share from 2008 on. Tell us, Jenna. Good to see you. Good to have you join us. Let's now step back a little bit. First of all, when was the first time that physical therapy popped into your mind? Because you just said during the recession, it was just kind of figure out where you would fit, whether it was tech and how you were going to make it work. But physical therapy in particular, when did that come into the picture? Ultimately, why did you fall in love with it? Why did you choose it?
Yeah, so I actually didn't have a good experience with physical therapy the first time. Yeah, or the first few years, I was doing a lot of endurance cycling and triathlons, and after about 2 years, I was just chronically injured for a year, and I saw, I think, 4 or 5 different PTs, and I was kind of going to clinics where, you know, you spend like 10, 15 minutes with a PT, and they kind of give you the same exercises that everyone else does, and nothing was really working. So I was like, okay, screw this. And I actually found, this was when I was working in tech, and this was the last resort. I found this guy who works at San Francisco CrossFit, Roop Sahota, and he was mentored by Kelly Starrett, who wrote Becoming a Supple Leopard. And it was a non-traditional PT place because they do CrossFit, but they are all PTs. So they do more sports PT, and they don't take insurance. So they're able to kind of do whatever they want and think outside of the box. And he was able to diagnose me in the first 10 minutes with hypermobility. And that's when I realized, PT is different. It doesn't have to be insurance based. It doesn't have to be what I thought it would be, what I've just been seeing. And you can be really creative. And there's just seems like a lot more that I just didn't know about it. So that's what sparked my interest after about a few years of having some kind of bad experiences with physical therapy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, and it happens to all of us in some way, shape, or form. Some experience a little worse than others, but ultimately you fell in love with it after having such an amazing experience. Tell us a little bit about, so there was this time frame, right? Like 2008 is not last year.
No. Yeah.
So for those of us that are non-traditional, here's why we're doing this tonight. And then we'll answer questions afterwards and everything. The reason why we're doing this tonight is what's up, Ashley? Is 100% to inspire y'all. That's I think one thing is that a lot of people hear Casey and I talking about this so much that it's okay, we expect them to be positive. We expect them to I just want y'all to hear a real story, because this what's up, Tyler? These are real fears that non-traditional, there's so much time in between when I finished up my degree or when I finished bachelor's and now how does that work? So talk to us about that, that time period. It's 2008, you finish, go down a different career path, and then now you're saying, okay, after having some poor experiences, I'm actually pretty interested in PT. Tell us a little bit about that. about that transition, going into being a pre-PT? What were some of your fears? And let's just kind of go into that process, because a lot of non-traditional students are probably asking themselves the same questions you did.
Yeah, so I got a pretty cushy tech job and I was doing really well, and my parents were really happy that I had found something after the recession. And I was like young in San Francisco. I was like, oh, I've made it. I don't have to worry about anything anymore. Like, my life is set and I'm making pretty good money. And then after a few years, I felt really kind of empty. My undergrad is in international relations, and I wanted to do humanitarian work, and that specifically in Africa. But so I've always been interested in giving back and giving back to the communities around me and serving those underserved populations. I interned at a microfinance bank in Senegal, and just, saw how women were treated in some of these communities. And that's what I always wanted to do. And I kind of forgot that about myself. And I realized after a few years of working in tech, I wasn't adding to anyone's life. I was working 12, 14-hour days, just sitting behind a computer, looking at code. And, some people like that, but it was not for me. And I really thought about, okay, are my morals and what I believe in, or am I living my life in line with that? And I realized I was becoming so unhappy because I was not. I was not following what I believed in. I was not living my life that way. And I really had to take a good hard look in the mirror for a few months and realize that I needed to leave. Like, I needed a change. And it took me like a year to make the decision to leave. I, tried to take on different positions in the company. I tried to take on more responsibility, and I just really tried. And I was really scared because I was in my late 20s, and everyone was asking me, oh, when are you going to have kids? Oh, when are you going to do this and settle down? And, everyone else's life at my age, it was just not, it was different for me. And being different is hard. So I, told my parents that I was going to quit, and they were not okay with that. It put a lot of strain on our relationship for a year. They thought I was throwing away everything. And I just knew that I couldn't make a decision based on what they wanted for me and what everyone else wanted for me. People thought I was crazy. No one supported me except for my husband. So, and I also think no one understood what physical therapy was. A lot of them asked, so you're going to become a masseuse now? No hating on masseuses, but people didn't understand. So it was really hard. I definitely felt estranged from people. And it was just interesting to see how, who my friends were and, who weren't. So, but I just knew deep down that I was not happy where I was. And I just really listened to that gut feeling of, okay, I need to change. And I can't see myself being here in 10, 15 years. I kept thinking that I'm going to be here for 10, 20 years. I can't. So I just went against the grain and quit, and becoming a pre-PT and, starting to take classes again at City College. I was placed in the lowest level math, like arithmetic or something.
The basic.
Basic. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a really long journey. It was like almost 4 years of prereqs, because my undergrad was a Bachelor of Arts. So I had no science nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah. Should I talk about the city college, when I started city college, or what?
Well, before we even get there, I
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you an even deeper question
Mm-hmm.
because Rachel, Robbie, Elijah, Alexa, Lauren, Brenda, great to have you all here tonight. Casey, what's up, brother? So like I want to hit on the point you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
You said for those of y'all that are just joining us right now, Alex is one of our accepted system. Y'all see that little logo there? She's one of our accepted system alumnus. She's sharing her journey from being a non-traditional student to being accepted into PT school, and just like such like how much of a whirlwind it was to get
Mm-hmm.
there. And for a lot of students, I want y'all like if you know a non-traditional student, make sure they watch this video. Like what I want you to touch on, Alex, is you just mentioned, you said Joseph, like in 2008, recession hits. I get a job that was pretty stable. Things are looking pretty good. I'm in my late 20s. I have now fallen in love with physical therapy, and I know. Plus, I have these experiences in Africa and certain things about my personality and my character and things that my heart has fallen in love with doing
Mm-hmm.
that have reminded me of what my purpose is. So now you decide I want to make this shift with the support of your husband, of course, but nobody else supports it. Like family, parents, in fact, not supporting, but like strongly opposing what you are trying to do. Not only that, you have the pressure of being in your late 20s and seeing what everybody else is supposed to do. Like it's crazy how we create these things about like what we're supposed to be doing at
Mm-hmm.
28 or supposed to be. It's a bunch of nonsense, but
Yeah.
that's not there. But you're at a point where like all the pressure is coming your way. How do you handle it? The reason why I'm asking that question is because, like, don't get me wrong, Casey and I talk about this all the time, but how did you handle it? There are students right now who are struggling with just that. Right now, they're like, whether it's as a non traditional student, whether it's maybe PT in general, their parents might want, like, my parents wanted me to be a physician or a lawyer or an
Mm-hmm.
engineer. Like, it's like, whatever it is, like, how did you handle that level of opposition? Also, knowing that now, like, you're talking about like math, like having to almost start like way basic compared to what you had, like, what you would have thought you would have been starting out at. Like, how did you handle so much of that at once, knowing you still wanted to be a PT? How did you handle that to the point where you're able to push through? Like, what did you tell yourself? How did you block off the noise? Did you like?
Mm-hmm.
How did you like talk to someone who's going through that right now? Because I want them to understand like what you had to do to get yourself through that. Because most people stop at that point when all of that is pointed against them. They're like, you know what? Maybe this is God telling me it's not the move. Maybe this is just the universe telling me it's not the move. Maybe it's just life.
Mm-hmm.
Life is probably that it's not PT. Like, how do you handle that in that moment, or how did you handle it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Um, so I just thought about the end goal. That's what kept me going, taking all those, prereqs for prereqs, and people not believing in me, telling me I was just making a really bad mistake. I really believe that we are on this earth for a purpose, and I have really learned to listen to like this voice inside me that is kind of telling me what's right and what's wrong. And I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And I knew that I just imagined myself as a PT, and being able to serve populations that don't have access to PT. And then I imagined my life in an office working in a job that I hated. And so at that point, it became pretty apparent, okay, this is not going to be easy. But I don't, I'm pretty tough and I like to challenge myself. And I know being a PT isn't easy, and you know, I don't take the easy route. Most people are, it's, who said this was going to be easy? And I knew that, but I just kind of envisioned myself working away like 20 years from now in a cubicle and just hating my life.
Wow.
So, you know, during those hard, you know, classes that were hard, or, you know, long study sessions, and I would kind of like think back, oh, you know, I was actually making a lot of money, and, you know, why am I here? And then I would just remind myself, Alex, you are here for a purpose, and this is your purpose, and you are gonna be able to reach so many people. And just kind of imagining myself, I know it sounds cliche, but in like that white like lab coat, you know, like in a clinic or whatever, and being able to inspire people versus sitting at a desk and being somewhere that I really don't want to be because I had been there. So just having that kind of end goal in mind all the time. And also, I try to surround myself with, like, talk to my husband a lot about my fears and insecurities, and just trying to find people who were driven and enthusiastic about goals they had, because you are who you associate yourself with. So I just try to associate myself with goal-oriented and hardworking people, which is why I joined a women's swim and water polo team, just to have rigidity and, you know, a schedule, and be around people who were academically driven. So those were my two strategies.
If you're going through that right now, and oh, we're about to get to the good part of Alex's story, but if you're going through that right now, like, you have to understand that it's like it is in your control. Reason why I even asked that, Alex, is because that's a very overwhelming position in. The people you love, people closest to you, opposing what you feel called to do. And you're right, we all do have a purpose. And I think what's so sad is I think we exchange purpose for what pays the bills, or what we think pays the bills. Not realizing that purpose actually does pay the bills if you follow through with it. I'm just saying. But the biggest thing is just understanding that like you have to make sure you're just very careful about who you're talking to. And when you have family members that might, I'm not saying like disown your family, but find people who you know believe in what you're sometimes even more than you, whether that's your husband or people that are close to you, because like I talk to someone and I know that they're gonna make me feel worse about what I'm trying to do, then they're not the person. It's that simple. Like, I should be only talking to people who I know that after we finish talking, they will actually leave me feeling like more empowered to do what I was already trying to do.
Yeah.
Like, the only people you should be talking to. And so it's not that, Alex, what happened next? Talk to us more about that transition now. Like the classes, what was the hardest part of now, like climbing up that ladder into classes, and then ultimately now shifting to really what brought you into this community here?
So much. Just where do I start? Okay, so I hadn't been in school for like 6 or 7 years, and just getting used to studying again, being surrounded by 18-year-olds who, you know, they're just like so fresh, and they have like they're studying down, and I was like, I just forgot how hard school was and how much time it took, and, you know, just being married in class, people like totally freaked out by that. And I just felt really alone. And being in class, people were talking about, you know, transferring to 4-year colleges, and no one, I didn't meet anyone who was like me. So as I said before, it's hard to be kind of be alone and be different from everyone else. So I was at the pool one day, and I thought, okay, you know, I gotta find a way to like relieve all my stress, work out. And the lifeguard was like, "Oh, we have a women's swim team," and I was like, "Oh, I'm too old for that. Like, no." Which is like the worst excuse anyone can use. I'm too old for that. That's what I've learned. I was defining my life by my age, which is ridiculous. And I just said, no, I'm too old. That's literally what I said. I'm too old. I'm too slow. And he was like, well, are you a swimmer? Why don't you just try? And then I thought, okay, why not? Like, I'm in this situation. I'm at a city college. I just left my job. I feel estranged from my family. Why not? Why not do something a little crazy, right? And so I showed up and I was on the team because I used to be a swimmer. I grew up as a swimmer. And but I hadn't swum in like 10 years or so. I wasn't really in the best shape of my life. And it really changed my life. I was on an all women's swim team and I actually did water polo the next semester. So I did that for 2 years. And I never done water polo before, but I thought, why not? I'll try it and learn it. So why not? What's the worst that can happen? And I saw these girls, the City College of San Francisco, most are underprivileged students and come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. And, a lot of them would get injured, shoulder injuries and shoulder and neck. That was like the main thing for swimming. And they didn't have access to PT, physical therapy. So for them most of them weren't even insured. So for them to go see a physical therapist and pay out of pocket like $100+ was just out of the question, especially when food or housing is always kind of insecure. And they would go to the athletic trainers and the trainers would just say, here's ibuprofen, here's ice, figure it out. And I saw that it wasn't just with the swim and water polo team, it was with other teams, like especially football, because, I was down there just kind of seeing what was going on, and they would have these horrible injuries. And they were given kind of the same advice, ibuprofen, ice, and these guys are, really relying on being able to play so they can get a scholarship, so they can transfer, because this is the only shot they have. And I thought, these young people really deserve better. And it was frustrating to view that, to see that for 2 years, but it really gave me this fire, this passion. Like, okay, you need to stick with this, and you can really make an impact eventually on these people's lives later on. So that's kind of where it all cemented, where I was like, this is really what I want to do because of this, because of what I'm seeing here.
Dang. Oh, well, let's now shift into now you're like, okay, like I've taken my classes, an experience like has just cemented. And actually, before you can go there, like whoever's watching live right now, just give me a little hand emoji if you have, it might not be the same exact experience, but an experience that just made it very clear, like, oh, this is exactly where I need to be. Just like it could have been something you might have seen happen to a family member. It could have been something very similar to what Alex was talking about, just seeing people that were struggling. He's like, and she was like, this is a group of people that when I learn the skills that I will as a physical therapist, I'll actually be able to help them. Like, have you had an experience that just made it very clear that this is exactly where you're supposed to be? If you have, just give me the little hand emoji. Rachel, perfect. Just give me the little hand emoji just to let me know, because that should be confirmation. And the reason, Alexa, like that should be confirmation every single time. And I'm saying that because when it gets hard, it's very easy to forget this. This is why I'm making you do it. Lizzie, Randy, this is why I'm making you do it. Because it's very easy to forget. It's like, oh, well, grades aren't going so well. Jessica, perfect. So like grades aren't going well. GRE isn't going well. Maybe I got rejected the first time or the second time or the third time. It happens. Like, so maybe PT is not for me anymore. That experience right there, that moment that you just remembered, Jessica, Lizzie, Randy, Alexa, Rachel, Alex, that story, Caitlin, that should be the confirmation every single time. I want, like, honestly, I would like y'all to just like write it in your phone. Have a little note just to remind you of that story. Every time you start stressing out. Every time you start saying, maybe he's not it, I want you to go back and, because that should be the reminder every single time. Like, Alex, I'm pretty sure, like, moments where you were starting to kind of forget, if you were just reminded of that story and your experience in Africa, that would have been enough, wouldn't it have? That would have been more. And I think sometimes, so please remind yourselves. But now take us to the end. You're like, okay, like I take my classes. Now I want to do whatever I have to do to apply. Take us through that process of it, and then ultimately we'll get to the best part, like, of course, which is you getting into PT.
Yeah.
We'll spoil it. But now you're saying, I don't want to risk not getting in. What happened? What did you end up doing? And how do we get to where you are today?
So what I did to make sure I got in, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, just like take us through the last year. The last year is when things were starting to, I got to figure this thing out. How did you ultimately get yourself locked into a program as a non-traditional student who really hasn't, like, the last time you finished undergrad classes was in 2008.
Yeah. So long ago. It's been hard because, when I would talk to people who were interested in being PTs, they were kinesiology majors or trainers, and I had nothing to do with that. I had no background in that, and I didn't know how to leverage that for PT school. Like, I understood that's something that made me unique, but I didn't know how I could show it, how I could show PT schools, like, okay, I'm different. I have a completely different background, and this is why that makes me special. This is why that will make me a great PT. And because I had no one to kind of bounce ideas off of who had been through that situation, or just knew anything about being non-traditional. I didn't even know how to use it to my advantage. I thought being older was a disadvantage for the longest period of time, and that was another insecurity of mine. Why would they want some like old person in their program? So I was in City College in San Francisco, and we moved down to Santa Barbara. And I really lost my whole network that I had in San Francisco. I was starting to get to know PTs, and having access to people like Rup Sahota or Kelly Starrett was really amazing because they're non-traditional, actually.
Yep.
And I wasn't surrounded by anyone who I could talk to. And I was starting to feel really alone. And I was really losing focus, and that was starting to worry me. So I was taking my last two prereqs, my two prereqs, not my last one. I'm taking my last one right now. I was in statistics and anatomy, and I was like, man, I don't think I can do this. This is too hard. I'm not special enough. I had heard, talking to other people who had been rejected before, I thought, I was always comparing my stats to their stats, which is like the worst thing you can do. And I thought, their GPA is better. They did this. They're like a better applicant, and they didn't get in. So that means I'm not going to get in. So I really started developing this fear-based mentality, and I started making decisions based on that. I was fearful of just not getting in and failing. And the past 4 years, it had kind of taken a toll on the relationship with my family. And I thought, okay, if I don't get in, then it was all for nothing. And I failed my family. And I started like getting really into my head. And I started doing some research on Facebook or online, and I found Pre-PT Grind.
Ooh, I've heard of them.
And I thought, oh, this is interesting. And I, started reading a bit, and I it was nice to see a group for just pre-PTs. And I just thought, okay, I need to call this guy Joseph. Like, I need to talk to someone because I was so close to just dropping out of City College, dropping out of my classes and just giving up. And that was a like really scary moment for me. So like I got to schedule a call with Joseph, and just talking to you that day, I remember like kind of hearing for the first time from someone like you are meant to be a PT. We need to get you into PT school. I hadn't heard that really, except for my husband, but you know, it's always different from people.
But he loves you.
Yeah, I know.
Actually, something in specific. One thing I told you, and I need every non-traditional student to hear this. Y'all listen, tonight was about it just inspiring y'all to keep fighting. Don't stop. But one thing that I told you that night was I said being a non-traditional student is actually an advantage. So I specifically remember saying that. I said being a non-traditional student is actually like to your advantage. And you're like, as with everybody, it was odd to hear that. I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I just spent who knows how many years trying to retake classes with a bunch of 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
Never a school in their life and all of that. But I said, like, there's actually an advantage to being a non-traditional student. And the honest truth is, you just have a lot more clarity than a traditional student. And I'm not saying traditional students are not clear. Trust me. Like, I'm just saying that, like, when you're a non-traditional student, you've kind of been through it to the point where you've been able to go down a path where you're like, ooh, hard no.
Yeah.
No, really. Like, when you're traditional, you don't have that.
Yeah.
You pretty much say, I feel like PT is for me based off my story. And most of the time you get it right. And that's why I just want people to just know that PT is what they want. Like, if they know that's what they want, then there's no turning back. But I told you, I was like, after hearing your story, I was like, listen, like, it's actually to your advantage. You're very clear. Like, you are clear. Outside of the fact that you were kind of freaking out about what maybe you had been led to believe about, like, being too old. Oh, come on now. It's a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
Like, most of my class in PT school was late 20s, early 30s with families. Like, that was the majority of my class. So it's you were right there. And I was like, well, like, it doesn't actually, like, it works to your advantage because you have this clarity and you know, like, to go through all of the stuff you went through with your family and still lock into this, you have to be pretty doggone clear, right? It's like marrying someone your family doesn't want. You better be pretty sure that that's the person you want to spend your life with. So it's the same thing. So I said, like, you're good, like, and you have the work ethic. Let's get you in, but go on.
Yeah, so just talking to you and hearing about that, and then I didn't even know what the accepted system was. I kept hearing about, you know, people's testimonials and the pre-PT grind page. I was like, what's this? And so I remember asking you about it, and I thought, I need as much help as I can get. Like, I don't have a network down here, and I remember telling you that. Like, I have lost focus. I am not surrounded by people who have the same goals as me, who want to get into PT school or any kind of graduate program. I felt very alone, and that was really starting. And I was actually, my family lives in Santa Barbara, so I actually moved down closer to them, which was not helpful. I love my family, but it just like made things worse. And because I would see them like almost every day, and it's hard to keep like the blinders on, you know, especially when your mom and your dad are like, what are you doing with your life? So I was like, oh my God, you know, this is bad. I'm like this close to quitting. And when you told me about the accepted system, and you told me at first, you told me you need to be surrounded by people, network of people who are going through the same thing as you, who have gone through the same thing as you. And just being around people like that will make a huge change. And because I didn't have that, I didn't have a network at all. And when you talk to me about the accepted system, you're like, you have a mentor or a coach who ended up being Robin. And I remember her going live with you. She's non-traditional. And she inspired me. I thought, okay, she's like me. You know, I need to stay locked in. I remember watching her, and she became my coach. And we have like this really great relationship, very close. And just being able to talk to people and talk to people who are going through the same thing as you realize you're not alone. Like your fear, that you have, everyone else, other people have the same fear. So I don't know what it is, but just not feeling alone was super powerful. And hearing people tell you, I believe in you, you need to get into PT school, you can do this, being positive, which I wasn't really getting much of from my family. It prevented me from making stupid mistakes, such as dropping out of classes and just not applying because I was so scared of getting rejected and looking like a failure to my family. And I realized you told me, you're like, stop making stupid mistakes because you're fearful. And I realized that that's what I was doing. I was a fearful applicant.
Man.
Yeah.
I remember early on, Alex, but it's just so amazing to be able to sit here now and just watch you on the other side of things. We know you went through the accepted system, and she absolutely tore it up. She crushed it. And for those of y'all that are wondering like what the accepted system is, it's our coaching program where we like do it with you, and you have like full on. I mean, well, this is not to sell that right now, but if you guys are interested and you're like, hey, I want to go on the same journey that Alex was on, send us a message at contact.preptgrind.com if you're interested. But the biggest thing I want us to hit right now is the day you got accepted. Like you were recalling, you were like, man, I can remember everything from 2008. I can remember my family saying this is a bad move after having a stable job. I can remember just starting from ground zero when it came to classes. Like I can remember all of it. And like tell us about what the acceptance letter, just the day you got it, what that day was like, what it felt like to finally see it, what it felt like to finally have that confirmation that you were a lock, because that's the day that all of us need to literally envision and dream about. We'll talk about that just a little bit, but just tell us about that day.
I would say it's one of the happiest days of my life. It's hard to really explain. They actually gave me a phone call, and I was getting a TB test. I was at the doctor, and I had been waiting for like 2 or 3 weeks. And that waiting period was probably the hardest part of the application process. Because every day I was like getting, having something chip away at my self-confidence, and just very, very starting to have these like kind of toxic thoughts. And that's another kind of mental strategy to just not let that get to you. And it was like 8 a.m, and I just looked at my phone, and it said the admission director's name, and I just froze. And I was like,
you're like, oh shoot.
And I just answered, and of course, because I was like staring at it, and I was like, Alex, you have to answer the phone, And he was like, hi, this is blah, blah, blah. Am I calling, how are you? And I was like, I'm good. I'm getting a TB test. And he was like, oh, should I call you later? And I was like, no, please. Like, no. And he was like, I would like to offer you admission. And I broke down. Like, I was just sobbing. And the doctor came in, and he was like, is everything okay? And I was like, yes, I just need a minute. And I just had this like image of everything, like kind of like my life the past 4 years. It sounds so cliche, just like, went like I just saw that in my head, like kind of like flash before my eyes, just like how much hard work, how hard it had been. And then I thought, was it all worth it? And just getting that phone call was like, absolutely. Um, absolutely. And all of the sacrifices I had made, I knew. I was like, okay, this is what I meant to do. Like this is kind of signaling to me that I am on the right path. And I can show my parents that it wasn't for nothing. And all of my teachers and you guys, just kind of supporting me through it all. It was a short, like 1 minute phone call because I was just I couldn't talk. It was very hard to talk because I was just crying so much. But everything that I had gone through, and I just thought, never give up, ever, never, ever, ever give up. I'm just so happy that I never did, because that phone call was worth it.
Whoever's watching this right now, Alex just told you the reality of the day she got accepted into PT school. And for those of you that just joined us, this is one that I would highly recommend watching when we finish this. I would highly recommend watching this again. Because when you hear where Alex came from, just her journey as a non-traditional student, everyone's story is a little different. That's what makes it your story. It's beautiful. But there's one thing that I want you all to have at the front of your minds. Like, Alex, let me ask you this question. If 1 year ago, someone was able to like film you, right? Was able to like just watch you go through that phone call, right? Like just like you're like I hear like right now, was able to like film that day and then fly back to you in time, right? To 1 year ago and say, here, Alex, I want you to watch something. And you watched it. How much more freaked out would you have been, or how much more confidence would you have had going into everything that you've gone through to get to this moment?
Oh, game changer. Just, yeah, just being more confident and not doubting myself all the time. Not being fearful, not just thinking, oh, I'm mediocre. I'm not special, because getting into PT school, we all know it's so competitive. And, you compare yourself to other people. And that was something that I was doing, because I didn't know any better. And something I learned from you guys, stay in your lane. That was a huge thing for me. And that can be applied to anything in life, not just this. And once I started doing that and really focusing on my story and my journey and not worrying about all the noise around me, like, oh, she had a 4.0 and she didn't even get in. She's applied 4 times. She got rejected. He's trying to get his master's. I mean, it's like, I just stopped listening to all of that because I knew that I was meant to be a PT. And I knew this is what I was meant to do. And so once I started really listening to that instead of everyone else around me and all this like kind of toxicity, I would say, comparing and everything, that's when it really changed. And I stopped being scared of failing or whatever, not being good enough. And just really started focusing on what made me unique and why I wanted to be a PT. And I thought that will show admissions, if I focus on myself and what makes me unique and focus on my story, admissions will see that. They see thousands of applicants, and you know, they'll see the ones that are unique, or that are truthful, that are real, and that's really what I started to focus on.
Everyone watching, thank you so much for sharing this, Alex. This was amazing. And like everyone watching this live, I need y'all, like, if anyone ever told y'all that like envisioning is a load of crap, well, there's a good chance they achieved what they really want in life. So what I want y'all to start doing is like just picture that day. Picture that day, because it, like Alex just said, if someone had just captured that for her and sent it back to her in time, she would, like, it would have been like a total like shift in how she carried herself and how much work she put in, and how you realize how much time we waste just freaking out about this whole thing wrong, right? Like, how much time would you have saved, right? With being able to just stay locked in. Okay, I'm alone. I got to do this. I got to, like, so as a pre-PT, if you're watching this live, like start envisioning it. Start that day. Start playing it in your mind. Like, play it over and over. Start imagining, what are you going to be eating? Like, are you going to be at dinner? Are you going to be at breakfast? Like, are you going to be taking a walk when the email comes in? Is it going to be a phone call? Just start playing it in your head. You know why? Because it's going to happen. If your lives say it's going to happen, comment below. Comment below. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. There's only one thing that can stop it from happening. I don't care if you have a 2.4 GPA. I don't care if you've been rejected the last 3 or 4 cycles. I really don't care if you've been out of school since 2008, because Alex just proved that whole thing wrong. It doesn't matter if you're in your 30s. It doesn't matter if you're in your 40s. It really doesn't matter. Mainly because the only thing that can stop you from getting into PT school is the person that is sitting right next to, actually, no, it's you. It's you. You're the only person that can stop you from getting into a PT. So start envisioning it, because it is like, it's a real day. It's a real day that only exists if you push long enough to actually get there. Would you agree with me, Alex?
Yeah.
Would you agree with me?
Yeah.
So for anyone watching this, that was the purpose of tonight. And we have more pre-PT winners coming to inspire the heck out of you. What I want every single one of y'all to realize is there's no excuses. There's none. You're not a victim. The story that you have is your asset, not your liability. And everything about that day that you will get accepted is absolutely real. It's tangible. It exists. Start picturing it now, so that the days where you're down, the days where you're getting a lot of like negative talk from family, friends, the days that you're comparing yourself to other classmates, the days that you're like, man, chem is just destroying me, the days you're having to retake classes, the day you have to look at a rejection from a school, you realize this is not where it stops. The only way it stops is if I quit. That's the only way you don't get into PT school. Only way you don't get into PT. So I want y'all to keep fighting and fighting and fighting. And if y'all want some clarity, I mean, hit us up. This is what we do. Like, go to contactpreptgrind.com and say, hey, Casey Josephs, I need help. This is my story. This is where I'm at. And we will do everything in our power to help you, just like we helped Alex get into PT school. But as we finish this up, Alex, what is one final thing that you want to leave this amazing group of pre-PT winners? Side note, this is going to be a podcast as well. So for our listeners, what's up? Look at that, Alex. You had no idea.
I had no idea.
This is a podcast. This is now a YouTube video. It's everything. But what is the one thing that you would love to leave these winners with tonight?
That's a hard question. So much. I think, I mean, the thing that I said was, if this is really what you truly want to do, then there are no other excuses to be made. If you know deep down that you were meant to be in this field, PT, then that is kind of that led me and helped me get to where I am right now. And just never ever giving up. Because as Joseph said, once you give up, it's, you know, it's on you. You're the reason you didn't get into PT school and get to where you wanted to be. So just really listen to yourself and focus, stay in your lane. Focus on you. Don't worry about anyone else. It's not about anyone else. It's about you and your journey. And just keep fighting, keep grinding. Don't give up. Joseph and Casey are amazing. So if you need help, really reach out to them and they'll do everything they can to help you guys.
Boom. Alex, thank you so much for spending some time with us this evening. Your story is amazing, and I cannot wait for more non-traditional students to hear this story because, like, I mean, you did it. You crushed it. And this is just a reminder at every single stop that you have from here on out, there's nothing that can stop you. And so thank you so much. Deeply, deeply appreciate it. To everyone.